are going to go ahead and start. It's 5:30. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's board meeting. Before beginning, I would like to welcome our newest principals and vice principal in the audience who are here as part of the onboarding training. Laura Ramos, principal of Emerton Elementary School. If you can wave, stand up and wave. Thank you for joining us. Gabriel Diaz, principal at Golden Valley Middle School. He's coming. He's on his way. He's on his way. And John Carranza, vice principal at the Inland Career Center, Education Center. Thank you for joining us. I will now call the meeting to order. We'll begin by opening our open session with a Pledge of Allegiance. If Daniel and Daryl Peden can please join us in doing the pledge.
Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you both. Before we adopt the agenda, Dr. Marsden, are there any changes?
We will make a change to a consent item when we get to that portion of the calendar, but no changes otherwise.
Okay. So is there a motion?
Yes, move to adopt.
Second.
Okay, second.
I second it.
Is it the conversation? If not, let's go ahead and vote. Okay. Session 2, would board member, let me see here.
I'll read it.
Okay. Mr. Tillman, if you could read recognition of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., 2.1.
Recognition of Martin Luther King Jr. Whereas the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. was born January 15, 1929, and dedicated his life to the pursuit of equality for all, regardless of race, creed, or national origin. And whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered the most famous of his speeches, quote unquote, "I have a dream," during the greatest civil rights demonstration in the history of our nation, held on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. on August 28, 1963. And whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. paid the ultimate sacrifice when he was assassinated on April the 4th, 1968, and to remember the life, work, and dream of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a national holiday was first observed on January 20th, 1986, and continues to be observed annually in his honor on the third Monday in January. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the San Bernardino City Unified School District hereby encourages all the schools of the district to take this opportunity to express their heartfelt appreciation for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and to honor his legacy as a man of determination, dignity, and strength. So moved.
Second.
Okay, let's vote. Okay, motion passes. Would board member Mr. Gallo please read 2.2, recognition of Yellow Ribbon Week?
I'd be happy to, Madam President. Does that sound good?
Yes. That's
Recognition of Yellow Ribbon Week. Whereas the Board of Education of the San Bernardino City Unified School District has a long-standing record of demonstrating its commitment to safe schools, and whereas the board welcomes the opportunity to join with others in the community and state in proclaiming that the present and future well-being of our students requires safe schools. And whereas the district continues to support ongoing efforts to prevent campus crime and violence, develop conflict resolution skills, suppress gang activities, and eliminate weapons on campus. And whereas the district encourages employees, parents, students, and members of the community to wear yellow ribbons to demonstrate a commitment to safe schools. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the San Bernardino City Unified School District hereby declares January 15th through 19th, 2018 as Yellow Ribbon Week and encourages all of our employees and students to help rid our schools of violence.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, let's vote. Okay, passes. Would Board Member Dr. Rogers please read 2.3, resolution in support of California Earned Income Tax Credit?
Sure, and I'm working on it, guys. Resolution in support of California Earned Income Tax Credit, Cal EITC. Whereas the California Earned Income Tax Credit, Cal EITC, is one of the most effective tools in America to lift families out of poverty. And whereas last year, the Cal EITC put almost $200 million directly into the hands of nearly 400,000 working Californians, and the federal EITC delivered over $7 billion to low-income families. And whereas research shows children whose families receive a boost in income from EITC perform better in school and have better health. And whereas in order to receive Cal EITC, families must file taxes and meet the eligibility guidelines, which can be found at caleitcforme.org. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of San Bernardino City Unified School District urges all families to use the free resources and tax preparations services provided through caleitcforme.org and file their 2017 tax returns.
So moved.
Okay, if I can have, before we vote, to speak on the issue, please.
Hello, Board and Superintendent. My name is Juan Villa. I'm with the Cali ITC for Me outreach here in San Bernardino and Riverside County. The California Earned Income Tax Credit is a very important tax credit for working families making less than $22,300. As you know, many families here in our city, in our district, can greatly benefit from this credit. I am a product of San Bernardino Schools, so I'm excited to work with the school district in this effort into making sure that all of our families and some students that are now going into college and going to be doing their taxes in the future learn about this tax credit. It is really important that many people know about this. Last year, $2 billion was left on the table, so we need to make sure that every single person that qualifies for this credit make sure that they claim it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Now let's go ahead and vote.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, of course.
Just for the viewing audience, not just here in the building, but watching on TV, what are some of the basic things that allows them to qualify?
Sure. So there's an income eligibility, which I said is $22,300 or less. So that's a full-time minimum wage worker. There was a new expansion to the credit this past
Is that single without kids or with dependents or not?
Yes, so there's you have to have 2 or more children for the $20,300. With no children, it goes down to $15,000. Now, say if you make more than that, you can still qualify for the federal earned income tax credit, which is at $54,000. On top of that, some more requirements for the California earned income tax credit is you have to be ages 25 to 65. This year, it's also going to be including self-employed workers, so that's a 1099. One of the fastest growing jobs in California, Uber drivers, Lyft, babysitters, gardeners, all that type of work. So those are some requirements. It can go, yes, sir.
And with the $20,000 income or approximately and 2 dependents, how much money do they get back by filing this?
Sure. So you can receive up to $6,000 in EITC. That's a combination of the federal and California earned income tax credit. I also wanted to thank Dr. Flores and President Medina for helping out in the past. We had some conversations about the California earned income tax credit.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
We're good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for presenting this important information. Okay, and we voted? Did we vote already? Let's go ahead and vote. Okay, it passes. Now, session 3. Item 3.1 is a public hearing regarding the 2016-2017 California Assessment on Student Performance and Progress Testing Waiver Request for North Park Elementary School. So I'll go ahead and open the public hearing.
Thank you, Madam President. We have no public comments on the topic. This, as you know, is our application for the waiver during April 10.
Okay, and since we're not voting, we're going to go ahead and end the public hearing.
Correct.
Okay?
So we'll close.
Which which I didn't open it, okay. And the public hearing is now closed. We're going to go next to student. We didn't have this on the agenda, but we wanted to go to the student board member with Danielle Queseda.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. We haven't had any recent student advisory council meetings, so I don't have much to report on behalf of other students, but I do have a few questions, just looking at the things right here. So I see we have a community engagement plan. It says 2018 to 2023, so is that already set that many years in advance, or is it open for modifications or people?
Yeah, it's a living document, so we can revise it anytime. We did, matter of fact, in our first year, Danielle, we had launched the community engagement plan with 8 strategies, and after 1 year of looking at it, we determined we didn't have a strategy on health, wellness, and safety.
Right.
So we added that. So yeah, it's a living document, can be changed at really any time that's necessary to help the organization and folks thrive.
Oh, okay, he's talking about presentation, never mind. Another thing I saw, I think it's just for the board members, but for IEFL, and you guys pay for the students from our district, right? Is that gonna be voted on, or is that for Inland Empire for Cheerleaders program?
Your question is,
Right.
what is your question again?
Oh, I saw it on this paper that we have right here.
Yes.
And what I was told is that the students from our school district, their fees are paid for, like the costs of
Yes,
them
that's
going.
correct.
Is that an ongoing thing, or is it voted on each year? Just
Every year, we make the decision whether or not to do that, and every
Okay.
year we've decided to do that.
Cool. And my last question. So I know Upward Bound is a trio program, so I'm sure the district doesn't really have much say on what schools get chosen for it, right? Is that correct?
I'm going to have Dr. Mitchell speak to that for you, so.
So it's a grade-based program, and so I believe all of our high schools are participating. I'd have to check to make sure.
Okay. Well, I know Cajon isn't participating, so that's why. The Dell Scholarship were ineligible since they don't accept students from Cajon for Upward Bound. I know because I talked to the people.
Okay.
So is there anything that we can do? Because I know that there are students that are the set demographic that program wants to cater to, like
Right,
first
right.
first generation low income, but since they go to Cajon, they're ineligible. And so I'm just curious if there's anything that we can do on like our behalf to actually try to get that. Of course, it's too late for me, but for the other students that are in the same circumstance.
So Danielle, that's a great question, and I don't have the answer, but what we'll do is I'll ask Sudha Venkatesan, she's our Director of Secondary Education, to call you and get your question and see if she can answer that question. Because I believe there is a way around that when the school doesn't qualify, that kids may still qualify. So let me ask her to give you a call this week and answer that for you.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's all I have to say for right now. It's my first week back, so.
Yes. All right.
And I understand you have IB studying to do, so
I
you
do.
are
I have-
welcome to go as you need to go.
Thank you very much.
All right, have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Thank you for those questions. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move along to 4.0, public comment. This is a time during the agenda when the Board of Education is prepared to receive comments from the members of the public on any matter within its subject matter jurisdiction. Other than to ask a clarifying question, the board will not make any responses to comments made by the public, but if needed, we will refer to the superintendent to follow up.
Madam President?
We ask, yes,
It's only 5:45.
do you want us to wait?
Yeah,
If you don't wait, if you don't have to wait, but I just want to make sure, I know there's a lady coming in at 6:30,
We could,
so we can go back to it when they come in?
we could always come back to it.
Okay.
If you prefer, but
Thank
then,
you.
and then reread it again. Only because we have some that already have submitted slips, and that way we can get that.
Madam President, we'll come back.
Yes.
To it,
Yeah,
okay?
we'll come back.
Because people are accustomed to 7 PM.
Yeah. What does that mean for the ones that are here? Yeah. So we have a few that are,
Yes, so thank you, Madam President. So yes, as Ms. Medina mentioned, due to the early time that we're having public comments, we will pause on the agenda at 7 PM, see if there are any other comments, and then we'll continue to go from there. So our only comment so far tonight is Ms. Sandy Owens would like to speak on the topic of workplace bullying. Welcome, Ms. Owens. And Ms. Owens is a member of our San Bernardino Teachers Association.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Sandy Owens, and I'm on the Board of Directors of the San Bernardino Teachers Association. Work hurts for 1 in 3 Americans. Why? Workers are legally allowed to abuse other workers on the job. We're not talking about a bad day at the office. We're talking about intimidating, verbal abuse, and intentional sabotage. We're talking about an epidemic like domestic violence, in which targets get beaten down day after day. The perpetrators are bullies. Those on the receiving end are targets. A bully puts his or her personal agenda of controlling another human above the needs of the employing organization. Unchecked, bullying can quickly escalate into an abusive, toxic workplace where everyone suffers. And if ignored long enough, the entire organization is placed at risk. The abuse can lead to severe anxiety, clinical depression, post-traumatic stress disorder-like syndromes, and can harm personal relationships. Yet when workers report this problem, 6 in 10 employers ignore it. It's called workplace bullying, and it doesn't just hurt workers. It hurts businesses. Workplace bullying reduces productivity, lowers morale, and creates absenteeism and turnover. Businesses can end up spending more than double a salary when they push a trained employee out of his or her job. When children witness adults being bullied and see the impact on the targets, the adults are modeling aggression for kids, essentially showing them how to. And a toxic environment for adults in schools definitely interferes with successful learning. You may be asking yourself right now, how does this apply to us? Well, workplace bullying is alive and well in San Bernardino City Unified School District. As a member of the SBTA Board of Directors, I am responsible to the members of 9 elementary schools. Of my 9, I would classify 2 of those schools as toxic. Let me share with you some of the things that we perceive as the action of a workplace bully. For example, interrupting a teacher's instructional time in front of students to correct a teacher. Shopping for observations. For example, an administrator may complete 3 observations in one day, 2 of them being scripted observations, and 1 being the evaluation observation. I don't need to tell you that usually they're picking the worst observation for the evaluation. Using our evaluation tool, which we spent a long time working on, I believe the better part of a year, but using that tool as a gotcha, not as a teacher growth and learning experience, but a gotcha. Excessive walkthroughs and observations that do not result in feedback to the teacher. Teachers being isolated for ridicule and embarrassment in front of colleagues. Teachers not being provided the support they need, setting them up for failure. And then there being a failure to provide equality within professional development opportunities. And this list is not intended to be inclusive of all the behaviors that we as SBTA leadership see and hear about from our members. But our members, your teachers, are suffering, and we need to do something about it, and we need to start by just recognizing that it exists. Both of the schools that I previously referred to have an excessive number of P1 and P2 teachers. One school has 12, the other has 14. Why is this important? Because it reflects the ability of these administrators to attract qualified, experienced teachers to their sites. No one wants to work for a bully. So when a job opening becomes available, no one chooses to transfer. Thus, a new teacher is assigned to that opening. Teacher turnover at these schools is 30 to 50%. Some of our most challenging students are being taught by some of our least experienced teachers. Not a good setup for student success. Our district has embarked on the first year of the Learning Communities for a Success program, intended to support site climate and culture teams as they work to create welcoming, safe, and nurturing learning environments. As teachers, we can't create those things if we're not feeling it. My intent tonight was to reopen a conversation on workplace workplace bullying. Over the years, I've had conversations with a number of you about this topic. I've lived it, I've survived it. And it's time as a district that we take a loud and public stance against these types of behaviors. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And Ms. Owens, I'm going to assume that you've shared your concerns, obviously, with your leadership, Ashley Alcala, as well as Dr. Wiseman. Is that correct?
Repeatedly, and many
Fantastic.
others.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Flores would like to ask a question, if you
Can
can.
I,
come back.
can you come back? I'm so sorry. It's a clarifying question, yes.
Yes.
So you were just asked if you had, by the superintendent, let your leadership know. And I'd like to clarify how many times and how long have you known about all of this and so forth?
I experienced it in 2012, perhaps, where we had a principal that was basically brought in to save us from ourselves, who created a completely toxic environment. He didn't last but 3 years. I've had numerous conversations with numerous people sitting up here. 4 or 5 years, I've had conversations about these two schools. What I would like to do is contact each one of our board members and make arrangements to have a one-to-one meeting with you so that I can get more in depth with you, talk about specific incidents, talk about names that we don't necessarily need to share in public, but that's my goal.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Owens. And those are all the comments. Now, again, we will pause in the agenda wherever we find ourselves at 7 o'clock to take any further public comments.
Okay. We will definitely be doing that. So let's move along to 5.0, student achievement. 5.1, community engagement plan update. Under student achievement, there will be an update on the community engagement plan. Board, if you can please hold your comments or questions until after the presentation. Dr. Marsden?
Thank you, Madam President. And with that, we have Dr. Volkemer is going to provide you an update on where we are now on our community engagement plan and our next steps.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Marsden, and good evening, Board. Happy New Year. Our objective this evening is to give you what we're going to call a brief overview of where we are and where we're going with our community engagement plan. And so if you turn to and before I do that, by the way, I want to give a shout out to Sylvia, who will always be Sylvia Ross to me, but she's Sylvia Garcia Flores now. Sylvia's had the unique challenge of working with me for almost 20 years. So could you please give her a big round of applause? She absolutely deserves it. And she's here manning the AV equipment this evening. So thank you, Sylvia, for being here.
I like your last name.
Shortly after a board election a number of years ago and the selection of our current superintendent, Dr. Marsden, the board initiated a strategic planning effort that was designed to bring us together as a community to make sure that we were focusing on the most important work. Thank you, Mr. Tillman. That strategic plan, what we typically would think of as a strategic plan, quickly became our community engagement plan because we recognize that our strategic plan is one part of all that goes on within our city and our efforts to revitalize the city of San Bernardino. And so just to give you a bit of history, and I'm not going to go into great detail on this, but we had a broad-based working group, and I think a couple of you were on that original group of 37 people. Went through an extensive process with Lindsay Gunn, who is a strategic planning expert. And we came up with a basic framework for a strategic plan. That was, there were board members, union representatives, teachers, students, community members, all involved in the original development of that plan. We took it then, and that's when Dr. Marsden brought us the first community gathering for excellence. And when I have to say, when I heard that we were going to have 1,000 people in a room, I was like, that's going to be a heck of a challenge. And every year, that year and every year since, we've had over 1,000 people in that room. And that was their first chance to vet the original community engagement plan. Then we used an extensive, and Linda Bardier played a key leadership role in getting the word out, making sure that people had a chance to weigh in and put their fingerprints on our original community engagement plan. And you've had updates since then. You formally adopted the community engagement plan in 2013, and it served as our North Star, essentially our guiding light for our work in terms of our strategic objectives, our mission, our vision, et cetera. And as hard as it is to believe, it's already been 5 years. 2018 marks the 5-year anniversary of our community engagement plan. And so I'm going to move to past a bit of history to the next slide, which talks about where we've been. The action plans, as is many times true of a strategic plan, have been implemented to various levels. You get together, you bring a group together to do action planning, an action planning process. And some are taken and put together and implemented just as they're seen right from the start. Others require funding that perhaps we don't have at the time, or require infrastructure that we don't have at the time, so there's some foundational and undergirding work that needs to get done. And still others, we find that the original intent was good, but perhaps a different direction is in order. And just to give you a few highlights of successes from our community engagement plan, and there are many, I'm just going to name a few, but we've had significant progress on a number of our KPIs, including our graduation rate, our dropout rate. We know our graduation rate now is above the state, local, and national averages. Correspondingly, our dropout rate has gone to an all-time low. Our suspensions and expulsions have decreased by significant amounts of numbers. We've had the development of our career pathways and our applied learning strategies, where we've got students now that are going through internships. We just got really good news today about some internships that are coming forward at the beginning of this year. Students are winning competitions and are involved in research and white papers with leading universities, and just doing some absolutely amazing things in that whole area. And then, of course, our LCAP alignment. Through this second round of LCAP alignment, Dr. Mitchell and his team, the leadership team, have worked very hard to marry the LCAP and our community engagement plan to make sure that the resources, both monetarily and people resources, are really guided toward our community engagement plan and those 9 strategies. So recognizing that we were getting to the quote-unquote end of our first kind of round with the community engagement plan, on September 26th and 27th, and I believe that several of you were there, at least for bits and pieces of that meeting, we held a kind of a refresh meeting. Lindsey Gunn came out and led us through a process to say, where are we at? We took stock of where we were with our current community engagement plan, and basically 3 things happened at that meeting. Number 1, we affirmed that our vision and our mission and our strategic objectives were still very much appropriate to where we were going as a district, that they really didn't need any overhaul, that our mission of being the leading experts in human learning and all of the tenets that go with that, our belief statements, et cetera, were all according to that group. And that was a very broad-based group. We had our site leaders involved, key directors, union leaders, community members, and any of the members of that original group of 37 that were still in the area were invited to participate in that exercise as well. So again, the affirmation of our vision, our mission, and our strategic objectives, we agreed that we would stay the course there. But we agreed that 2 things needed to happen. The first one was that we needed to take our existing action plans and refresh them. As I mentioned, some were done in their entirety, some didn't get off to as quick a start. And it's really time to look at those action plans and say, how do we take it now to the next level in the next 5 years? So in terms of this brochure and Danielle's question, these are our existing action plans that we have currently today. We'll go through a process which I'll explain on the next slide, which will update these action plans in the next several months, and we'll bring those back to you for approval. So we agreed that we needed to do a refresh on our action plans, and we agreed that we needed to do a really significant job in re-energizing the community engagement plan in the field, that every employee, every student, every member of the community should own, know, and be energized by and be able to energize our community engagement plan. And so we are basically looking at 2 strategies from here. How do we refresh our action plans, and how do we get the content and the intent of our community engagement plan deeply into the field so that every person in our district knows that they are contributing to the community engagement plan. We're going to see a video in just a little bit that's related to that. So that basically brings us to where we're going from here, knowing that it's now time to reinvest in the community engagement plan and take us to our next 5-year cycle. So where we're going is based on that work that we did on September 26th and 27th, 2 primary actions. One is the CEP, internal re-energizing process, and that will happen or at least begin on January 31st and from 8 to 12, and you are certainly invited to join us at that meeting. We basically invited our principals and our directors, who will be the frontline energizers, so to speak, at each of our school sites and in each of our individual departments. Obviously, cabinet plays a role, the board plays a role, but when we get into the field, the principals and our directors will be leading that work. But we're also going to, you know, the old case method, copy and steal everything. We're going to piggyback on a really successful model, and Sandy mentioned a little bit earlier how hard people work to develop our new evaluation process. And one of the key strategies within that process was to have the principals and the union leaders roll that process out together. So once it was designed, it wasn't just the principal that said, here's our new evaluation process. It was the principal along with the site union leaders at that site that were rolling it out together. And so we're going to use that same, it was very successful, we're going to use that same model in terms of energizing the community engagement plan with our principal and site leaders, our directors, and they will each have union leaders by their sides to do this energizing process. And a key piece of that is a new communication and marketing campaign, and I'm going to turn it over to Linda for a few minutes, and she's going to tell us basically what the expectation and accountability will be for that work once we finish on January 31st. So, Linda?
Thank you, Dr. Volkemer. And as Dr. Volkemer mentioned, on January 31st, when we have our key partners in the room, we'll roll out this new marketing kit, which means that every school site will get a kit that is just chock full of resources, because our goal is to to launch an awareness campaign so that our employees truly do know, own, and are energized by the plan. So the marketing kit is going to contain fact sheets and posters, and as you may have noticed here in this room, we rolled out the new community engagement plan posters that are decorating this room. So there will be smaller versions of those posters that get sent out to each school site, along with copies of the fact sheet. During that orientation or the meeting that we have on January 31st, we'll share with the leaders how we are going to support them in sharing this information with their staff. The marketing kit includes computer messages that will be rolled out, the fact sheets. If you've called the Board of Ed lately, you might get placed on hold and you'll hear a little snippet of information on the community engagement plan. So those are also key parts. And we'll be sending out regular administrative emails that go out to all of the staff. And we've also worked on creating a special video that really brings the community engagement plan to life for employees, and it shows them how some of the work that they're doing actually is a great illustration of the 9 strategies for the community engagement plan, and those videos will be shared with employees as well, and we'll break those videos up and use them as mini videos throughout the next 9 months. And all of this will begin in March, when they'll be focusing on a different strategy each month.
And you can see some of the materials right in front of you. This is part of the marketing campaign, the posters that you see in the boardroom. Linda's done a terrific job of putting that together, and we're looking forward to seeing how that will roll out in terms of re-energizing the process with our employees in the field. The second strategy, Barb?
Madam President, I'd like some clarification.
Dr. Flores?
So I'm a little bit lost in terms of what actually is the meat of what you're going to do. What specific actions are you talking about?
So the first action on this slide is the re-energizing process, is getting the word into the field, as we call it, to make sure that all of our team members understand the community engagement plan and understand their role within it.
I think the question you're asking will be found on the last page. If you go to the last page of this document, it has the actual action steps.
Okay,
action
because
plans
right now I'm
behind.
not seeing what the action is. It's
If you
just
turn to
very,
this
very.
last page, you'll see each of the strategies, the plans, and then there's actually a comprehensive plan behind each of those little plans, if you will, the numbers that are there.
Okay. That was
you-
going to be my next question. What are the action plans and what is targeted
And
and,
and we'll give you a real example here. shortly.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's actually a perfect segue, Dr. Flores, to the next piece of our strategy, and that is the refreshing of our community engagement plan, action plans. So what we'll be doing, we will be doing, and that's the second half of that slide that we're on February 8th, February 22nd, and March 22nd, we'll be bringing together broad-based groups to review these action plans, take stock on what we've done, and said, okay, is this still the right direction, or is there a next level? If we've done everything within that action plan, how do we take it to the next level? If we've built out career pathways at 4 of our high schools, how do we get the other 2 done? If we need to work on more on internships and externships, how do we do that? But that'll be up to those action planning teams to refresh each of these action plans, and then we'll bring them back to the board.
And I'm assuming that teachers are going to be involved in this?
Absolutely.
All the way through?
Ashley is working on identifying the union reps that will be part of the re-energizing process, as well as specific union members that are, union representatives that are interested in each of the strategies themselves. Okay?
Thank you,
So if you look out there, it says 3-meeting structure. We're going to use a 3-meeting structure. Broad-based work groups, including staff, union representatives, and leaders, and also community volunteers, because at the last Community Gathering for Excellence, Linda had people sign up for any of the strategies that they were interested in and helping to build. And so we'll be contacting all of those people to invite them to come and be a part of this process as well. Does that help? Yeah. Great, great. We're going to use a structured approach for consistency. When we first started to build this model, we thought, okay, we'll line out the agendas for each of the 3 meetings, and then we'll let all 9 strategies go out on their own and pick their own dates. And as we talked about that more deeply, it made a lot more sense to bring everybody together, because the strategies are interconnected. You can't have applied learning and not have career pathways. You can't have career pathways without applied learning. And so it made more sense to have a structured approach for consistency to bring everybody together. So it is our hope and intent that by March 22nd, we would have a very solid draft of our new action plans that we would be able to bring back to the board sometime in April or May, after a little bit of having to put it together and make it look pretty, obviously. And again, you are certainly welcome to join us on any of those dates, either January 31st, we'll get all the specific hours and locations to you, February 8th, 22nd, and March 22nd for that work. We're very excited about where we're going, where we're heading. We believe that we've got a lot of work to do, but we believe that the work will really be critical for the next 5-year cycle of our community engagement plan. And we're looking forward to bringing back updates. And what we wanted to do before we turn it over for questions is show one of the videos that relates to our community engagement plan. So if you're okay with that, before questions, we've got that ready to roll. Dr. Marsden first or after? So we're ready to go. And thank you to Linda.
I'm here at my school talking to employees of the San Bernardino Unified School District about the Community Engagement Plan. The Community Engagement Plan turns 5 this year. It has 9 strategies that have transformed how students like me learn. All employees are connected to the Community Engagement Plan. Let's take a look. I'm here with Joe Thompson, who uses applied learning in his job as maintenance manager. So, how are you using applied learning?
We use applied learning by calculating how much paint we need to paint a wall.
That's pretty cool. Now, I see that much of work maintenance and operations employees do is related to applied learning.
But did you know that many of our district employees learn beyond the boundaries of the classroom? Have you had a chance to meet our environmental safety officer, Eric Batir?
Yes, other employees learn beyond the boundaries of the classroom and the workday by attending my night and weekend CPR classes.
Another part of the CEP is coaching and mentoring. Coach Mason, does coaching just happen on the basketball court?
No, it does not. It happens in all aspects of life, specifically in the gym and in the classroom. I also have Common Core demonstration teachers that coach and mentor me.
That brings us to strategy 4, high expectations for all. I'm here with Teacher of the Year, Tracy Diekman, who sets the bar pretty high for her students and herself.
Just like everyone else in the district, I expect great things from you, but I also push myself. In fact, I'm working to become a nationally board certified teacher, the highest level of teaching excellence.
Wow, that's really cool. The next strategy is Network of Alliances. Let's meet Jamie Rios. Jamie, how is your work connected to the Network of Alliances?
Bilingual school outreach workers connect with the communities and resources for those families in need.
I get it. Community resources can also link students to college and careers.
This school district makes it possible for employees that are former students to graduate from high school, work as interns, and return to teach. We call this the Grow Your Own program.
The next strategy is resource acquisition and allocation.
I'm Norma Guzman. I'm an Educational Assistant 3 at Anderson School. I want to thank all the district staff for leading the LCAP work to ensure that I have all the resources and tools that I need to support the teachers and students at Anderson School.
There are so many other employees who support teachers and students, and that's where success and accountability comes in.
Hi, I'm Heather. I'm a cafeteria worker, and I serve delicious and nutritious meals so students like you can succeed.
Hello, my name is Trayvon Martin. I'm a community liaison, and I make sure parents are involved in school so that their children will be successful.
But our community engagement plan is not just about classroom success. That's why the health, wellness, and safety is the final piece. Hey, officer, can you tell us how you support health, wellness, and safety?
I'm here to make sure everyone follows the rules and stays safe. That's how I make hope happen for you and the district's 49,000 students.
That's amazing. There are more than 8,000 employees in the school district who are working really hard to make the community engagement plan work.
Thank you for watching our community engagement plan video.
So that's a fitting topping to the presentation. The community engagement plan is ultimately for our students, but the delivery model are our team members, our teachers, our classified employees, our administrators. That's how we get the work done. That's why we're working so hard to involve them in the development in these two different areas. And so I think Dr. Marzen has some comments.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Volkmer. I just want to make one comment. And Linda, thank you. Fantastic job, you and your team on that. Board, if you could, turn to this last page for just a minute. I want to give you an example. I was going to share it during my comments, but it's more fitting now. And I'll have Ginger speak to it in just a moment. But look at the very back items. Plan 6.5 talks about our district students participating in high-quality pathways that focus on instruction, academic, industry standards, et cetera. And then you look back on plans 2.1 and 2.2, talking about collaboration taking place between us and higher ed, trade and vocation and business, professional community to create pathways to college career. Look at plans 3.8, 3.9, 3.10, talking about students having access to mentors in the professional world for their professions. And I'm pleased to announce we've made some incredible progress on that end. As you know, the County of San Bernardino has made an enormous investment, over $100,000 invested in a person that will liaison between us and the Workforce Development Board, with ultimately over all 8,000 of our seniors, engaging them in workplace experience. And I want Ginger to speak to what that looks like now, because we just got through some of the initial barriers, and we're getting ready to get this big thing off the ground. So Ginger.
Yes, thank you. We've been working with the County Workforce Development Department and San Bernardino Valley College on a partnership that will allow us to facilitate those internships. So we just are in the midst of our first pilot project. We're working with the medical assisting students at Cajon High School, and we heard from Janet Light today that 15 of our students have completed a workplace readiness course. It's a non-credit course at San Bernardino Valley College, and the gateway to an occupational work experience course that is essentially an internship that those students will then be placed in, so that they will not only get internship or workplace learning experience, but they will also get college credit for their time in that place. So it's a partnership we're working on with 3 different partners to pull together, and we hope to expand the capacity of that as we go into the next year.
So when you get to item 8.27 tonight on your consent calendar, you'll notice that the county's investment in this school district workforce development coordinator is to assist at-risk, hard-to-serve, low-income youth in areas of finding and retaining work, improving work skills, and becoming self-sufficient. And that's going to be effective for a period of 3 years. So the county's investing $100,000 a year for 3 years to carry this out. This is a huge investment, an undertaking for our kids, and so we're real proud. Thank you, Ginger, for all the hard work to lead that connection and make it happen. And just wanted to let you know how this plan actually plays out physically, because that's important that we see action related to those plans.
Okay, and I see that, Dr. Flores, you have a question?
Yeah, so I have, I think this is great that, our kids are going to have these opportunities, especially because I know some kids right now that are looking for jobs and they can't get a job. And they're in dire situations. And they're our graduates. So my several questions I have is, number one, this person that's going to be doing this work, how is that person going to interface with our programs and our people and all our schools? What is the mechanisms that are going to happen? Is that person going to have staff? Are we supporting them? In what ways? I'd like to know all of the intricacies that are related
Ms.
to that.
Santaveros can speak to that.
So the partnership that we have to bring this employee will be a district employee, so they'll be working with Pam Kempthorne's office and interfacing with our various schools, also getting cross-trained in the programs and supports that the County Workforce Development Department offers, so that we can make a more seamless level of support between the instruction that's happening in our schools and the placement that our students need in jobs, so we can get the full impact of their network into the business community to help our students get those jobs and placements.
So will this person also be interfacing with our career pathway programs as well?
Yes, in fact, yes. So through Pam Kempthorne's Career and College Readiness Office, yes.
And how will we keep track of all of this? How are we going to keep track of our placements, our interns, and then also the job? Because that's the ultimate goal, is for them to have, jobs within the community.
Yeah, it's a pretty robust system. Ginger can speak.
Yes, and some of those elements will be developed as this person comes on board to help build those systems out, but it will be in concert with the Workforce Development Department and the tracking systems they have as well, so that we will have very good data about the students and how they are placed. Yeah.
8,000 students is a lot of students.
It is.
Yeah. And then it accumulates as they graduate.
Yes, it is.
It's exciting.
It is exciting. I'm just thinking of all the logistics.
Yep.
And all of the, follow through and all the aspects.
Well, and I think what's exciting is the county really is helping to blaze a trail where now other partners in the community, these high number employers, can have similar relationships with us.
No, I think it's exciting. I just want to know the infrastructure.
You bet.
I want to know the mechanisms and also, just the kids' needs in terms of,
And I would say we're figuring it out.
yeah.
We're going to be the ones figuring it out.
We are, and this employee is a link to the entire team at the Workforce Development Department. So it's not just one employee, it's really accessing a whole team of professionals who do this on a regular basis.
So the county is paying for this person? Or are we paying for this person?
No, they're paying $100,000 a year, each year, for 3 years.
For 3 years.
We're paying, I think, benefits and a
Right.
few things.
And that's what we're approving tonight?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Dr. Flores. Mr. Tillman?
I'd be interested in hearing about how many actual, and I'm not sure, is the county going to hire interns now?
The county is looking at doing a lot of placements for internships throughout county departments, but they're also reaching out throughout their business network to identify private sector placements as
Yeah,
well.
because right now the county doesn't have any positions for, they have what they call a public service employee, but I don't know of any do they have any new paid internship positions?
I don't know to the extent that all of these internships will be paid internships, but I do know that they're providing valuable access to experience. The students will also get college credit while they're enrolled in these experiences, and then it's access for future jobs as well.
And same thing for the district. I would like to see the district actually give numbers on how many paid internships that we do, because you know, when I worked for the county years ago, I was in high school and I got on as a student aide. And they had a student aide 1, a student aide 2. When you got to college, became a student intern. They got rid of those positions. And the good thing about those positions, I actually saw the advertisement in the newspaper and was able to apply for it and go to it off the street. The current way the county does the public service employee, you have to actually know somebody in the county in order to even put in an application for the job you're talking about. So all the people that are out here in the community like I was, totally disenfranchised, don't know anyone, but you want a job, there isn't a good, easy way to get into the system. So, and even for our district, the challenge is for a lot of people to navigate the system of how to go to the website and how to apply and when are the positions open and when they are open, how long are they open for, and when is the window they look. That's the frustration I talk to people about every day, day in and day out. So I hope we don't overlook those important steps that really keep people outside of the process. To me, it's nothing worse than touting a big program, but the very people who need it the most still don't get access. So I just hope there's some type of practical steps there that find ways to offer this to just regular young people who really want access to the county and the school district. And I say young people, but you even have older people who want jobs within the school district and the county who don't understand the process. So I don't know how we're going to do that outreach, but it really needs to be done. I know we even have an internship program, but I know I advertise and talk about it, but there's not a lot of advertisement out there. And I don't know if someone in the community who doesn't know an employee of our district has any access to an internship in our district. And that's not really a good thing. We need a way for regular people who have a lot of potential to have access to get a position that will lead to a career. And the only reason why I'll end it with this, the only reason why I talked about the paid internship, because when you don't have any money, you know, you don't want to talk about jobs that don't pay, even though it may be beneficial. It's a lot more beneficial if you can get a job that pays. And I think it's a win-win for a lot of us, because we got a whole lot of people with a lot of potential that never gets used because we just don't give them access.
Those are all very good points, Mr. Tillman, and things that we're hungry to do.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Mr. Gallo?
Yes, thank you. And this is just a start. You know, this is one of the first districts that I'm aware of in the entire state. And you guys know I serve on as a governor appointee on the state's Workforce Investment Board, and I chair the Education and Career Pathways Committee for him on this. And this is a pathway that is a unique one in the entire state. There's really not much cooperation between workforce development, you know, which is part of America's job centers that basically place adults into first-time initial employment and other career opportunities, and the linkage to our actual high schools and even elementary and middle schools. It's part of a strategy to embed a requirement not only for academic instruction, say in education, but also consideration of acquisition of certifications and certificates, national credentials and certifications, all done in an on-the-job training environment. So during their academic instruction through our various career pathways, they get applied learning experiences that represent how they would apply this educational knowledge to something that's going to generate economic prosperity for themselves, i.e. a job. And then the fourth key piece is actual placement. So ultimately, what I'd like to see, and I think what would be beneficial at the state level, is to actually have a requirement and perhaps even a role for our public education to even participate in the subsequent placement of students as a primary outcome, as an evaluation measure. And I'm not saying just into jobs, but placement in general. Could be placement into college, placement into a career, placement into post-secondary educational opportunities, placement into their next level of public education, i.e. 5th grade into 6th grade, fully competent and proficient and with the skills, abilities to be successful in 6th grade. So you see the placement component is really, and I tell you, nobody is doing this in the entire state. This is unique of how we're partnering with education and workforce development that I think is going to transform the way workforce development and ultimately create opportunities for the students that Danny is talking about. Really, it's all of our students, and that's the real key. How do we embed this into our district so that any student that wishes one can actually have an internship opportunity and actually embed these types of instructional practices to, we hear from employers about issues, students not prepared to go to work. Well, what if we had some elective courses that we actually did that and embed that into our education system so they, as many of us grew up, had a job when we were, 14, 15, 16. So I think it's a good collaboration. I'm really excited to see us moving in that direction because it's tangible, and it's tangible for a community where 54.3% of our population is on some sort of public assistance, and a job would actually be the best thing for economic development and growth for our kids. So I'm excited about it. Thank you, Dr. Marsden.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gallo. Ms. Rogers?
Thank you. And I also am excited. I think this is great, but I do want to emphasize again that it is our youth, and we know that up until now, they have not had opportunities to develop their soft skills and things like that will require them to be successful on the job. So I'm hoping that when we look at, because I know we used the word robust just recently, but and when I thought about that, I wanted to make sure that the qualifications for our students to even get into that program, that would be really, really important for me to kind of understand that we're not going to go with the student that's the great, how we always look at the best and the brightest and and then that's the person in the front of the line when all of our other students need all of these skills as well and the opportunity to be able to be in the program. So
Yes,
I don't know
so
if you've already kind of looked at that, but
the partnership that we have with San Bernardino Valley College includes a non-credit class that is the gateway to the internship opportunity. It's a 72-hour workplace readiness class that focuses very much on those soft skills.
Okay.
And the goal is that every one of our students would go through that program and ultimately be placed in an internship as a result of completing it.
And when you say every student, so every student has an opportunity to
Yes.
be in it if they choose to be in it.
Yes.
We're not having some form of cutoff to say, okay, well, your grades are, what are we going to do?
Currently, my understanding is the commitment is all students.
Okay. So all students to me means they don't all have 4.0s.
I hear you.
Okay.
Just one other comment. I've been approached by business owners, big business owners, that want to implement programs in our high schools that prepare our kids, like you said, Mike, certify them, and as soon as they graduate, they have a job. Our trade people are biting at the bit to come in. They have curriculum. They have programs already. We need electricians. We need plumbers. We need, construction workers. We need welders. We need et cetera, mechanics. And so my question is, Ginger, are you going to be the point person, or is this person that is coming in from the county going to be the point person?
It's a collaborative effort, so we're working across several departments, but this person will be the primary link to the Workforce Development Department's programs and reside in Pam Kempthorne's department, which is the appropriate place for that college and career work to happen.
And so I'm assuming that we'll have in place ways for curriculum to be implemented, programs to be implemented, and it's not going to take like forever to do it, because the proof of the pudding is in the implementation.
Yeah, we'll give you an example. We had at the beginning of our strategic planning, and I'm trying to remember which board members were there when we first started the work. I want to think you were there, Dr.
I was
Flores.
there, yeah.
And you remember Jim Sharkins from Cal State San Bernardino. Well, really immediately after that discussion, he
Right.
began implementing curriculum for
Right.
financial literacy.
Okay, great.
And so we're committed to
doing that.
having it go through this funnel and mechanism that we're describing around our pathways development. We have
Mhm.
a lot going on now, and take that into heart and
Okay,
get it going forward. Yeah.
all right, good.
Ready, fire, aim.
All right, good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Flores. Dr. Hill?
Thank you. Thank you. It was a great presentation. And as a person who got to college because of vocational education, I'm always excited when I hear these types of things going on. As you do your planning at some point, I'm hoping we can do the upper elementary students, like the 4th, 5th, and 6th, some type of, just an introduction so they know and they can start preparing for what's ahead for them. Because, it's at that age they start tingling with stuff and banging the hammer and looking and exploring. So if there's some type of introductory, it doesn't have to be the curriculum, just something to get out to the young people so they know what they have to look forward to. So thank you so much, and thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. I also wanted to add, and just piggyback on what you just said, Dr. Hill, regarding the students in the 4th, 5th, and 6th, is having maybe high school students also do the mentorship, and if they're in a certain program and trying to grow that within in the elementary school, and partnering that at the elementary school level as well. Thank you for the presentation. It was a good presentation. I know many of us, a few of us were part of the strategic plan in the beginning, and it's good that we're still continuing the work with this because it has, with different changes within the school district, we've kind of overlooked it in the past few years, and it's good to make sure that we are updating it and making sure the employees and everybody else are following suit with what's the updates on it.
Thank you.
Okay. So then we're going to go ahead. Any more comments on this? Otherwise, we will go ahead and move to 6.0, Administrative Report. 6.1, Alternative Board Meeting Location Update, is an update on alternative board meeting location that was discussed on December 5th board meeting. Dr. Marsden?
Thank you, Ms. Medina. And this, yes, we've taken your thoughts and we've researched and looked at what are some best avenues for our next locations. And so Ms. Christakos will share with you what we've come up with.
Yes, our recommendation, as was recommended by the board, is the San Bernardino County Boardroom. The seating isn't quite as large as it is here, but it has the most seating of the available options that are already set up for a board meeting. We haven't finalized the use of facilities, but we are, Tom Pace from Facilities made the offer that when they go through their remodel in September, that they could use our boardroom to offset any costs that may be associated. So we'll keep you updated on what the cost will be. I think they're open to it. He just hasn't heard back from them. During the time that construction begins on their boardroom, if we're not done here, we will have to have a couple meetings at the Indian Springs High School Performing Arts Center. And then we expect that our last board meeting here will be February 6th, and it will be anywhere from 6 to 8 months before we come back.
Okay, thank you.
Just,
Mr. Tillman?
just be aware that, and I'm sure you guys know, but just make sure you remember that the county meets in the daytime.
Right.
So when they use our new facility, they're going to want to use it during the day. And so whatever that Tuesday is, it'll be all day they want to use it.
Yeah, so Tom's already talked with them about it.
Okay. Any further comments, questions?
Sorry about that. I was saying, they were saying earlier that we were going to try to trade off saying that we will use the county facility. And then starting in September, they're going to remodel that facility. So after our facility is completed, they want to use our facility to do their board meetings, the Board of Supervisors meetings. So my only clarification was that the Board of Supervisors meets during the daytime. So I know we use our facilities during the daytime, and we have a lot of parking in the daytime. So just make sure you understand that there's a little different. When we go to their building, it's totally empty at night. When they come here, it's going to be a full day of people parking, so just be aware of that.
Right, that's true.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any
And
other
thank-
comments?
And thank you, Board, for the recommendation.
Any other comments? Okay, we're good to move along. 7.0, since it's not 7 o'clock yet, we're still going to push for another half an hour. 7.0, reports and comments. Oh, wait, excuse me, student board member Isabel Shelby, if you can go ahead and do your student board member comments.
Welcome back. Back in the saddle.
Yeah.
There you go.
Were you at zero period this morning?
Oh, no, I'm done with that class. Is this on? Oh, you're right. Now it's on. Okay, thank you. Well, seeing as I've only been back in school for 2 days, I don't really have anything to report, but I am here since I consider it part of my responsibilities, so there's that, but I don't feel like I should take up your time with comments that would be repetitive, so that's all I have to say for tonight.
Well, we're glad you're here, and Ms.
Thank
Caseta
you.
did comment a little earlier, and she had to go study for IB-related things, and if you need to leave when you need to leave, we understand, so thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's move along to 7.0, reports and comments. 7.1, report by San Bernardino Teachers Association. Welcome, and Happy New Year's.
I think this is the earliest on record. Good evening, Happy New Year, everyone. Superintendent Marsden, President Medina, Vice President Rogers, members of the board and cabinet.
Thank you.
I'm Ashley Vitas-Alcala, President of the San Bernardino Teachers Association. And tonight, I just wanted to comment on the presentation that Dr. Volkemer gave about the community engagement plan, re-energizing program that we're embarking on. We are looking at working with his department to identify reps from all of our sites. Hopefully everyone will be able to attend because we know the importance of making sure the message gets out across all of our stakeholder groups. And we also will be looking at assigning folks for each of the 9 strategies after we move from that meeting into the smaller subgroups. My understanding is the groups won't be as large as they were the last time through, but we are looking at people that did spend a good amount of time working on those initial plans and checking with them first to see if they're interested in continuing that work and then seeing who else might be interested. I know that safety was another one that was added at the end, so we want to make sure that those individuals are included as well because they weren't in the original lists.
Yeah.
Several years ago, this board did approve a bullying policy for our district, and that is not just limited to our students, it includes all employees of this district. And I just wanted to comment on the previous speaker from my board of directors around administrators that are engaging in bullying behaviors. I have been having lots of ongoing conversations with many of our cabinet members who oversee some of these sites. And it's been unfortunate that some of these behaviors have continued, and so we look forward to continued work on trying to alleviate those behaviors, and hopefully some of those individuals will decide to move to another district, because we know that Superintendent Marsden's vision is that we all work together as one team and that we treat everybody with respect, and that bullying is not tolerated in our district. So we will continue to have those conversations and engage in them with you as well. And we look forward to making all of our sites safe work environments, not just physical safety, but also emotional and mental safety too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley.
President Medina?
Mr. Tillman?
Yeah, I just want to say, I know the entire board supports me on this, that the board itself wants to create an environment where people are happy at work. And we definitely don't want to have a situation where someone's being mistreated and it goes in a prolonged situation. So all our employees spend way too much time here at the school sites to be in a predicament where they dread coming here or experience anxiety and that type of stuff. So whatever we have to do to alleviate those problems, we want to make sure we do that. And I know you guys are working with staff. Like I tell people all the time, the board is part of the process. So I appreciate you guys bringing it to our attention. And it's something that we have to make sure it gets taken care of. And I apologize it's been happening for just long as you guys say. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tillman. Dr. Flores?
Yes, and I thank you also because I concur with what Mr. Tillman just said. And I believe that Dr. Mitchell was in charge of developing a bullying process that's about this thick that I still have. And it also included everybody, employees, students, parents, everyone, administrators, board members, everybody. And we do have to make sure that that happens, that we don't permit or allow for bullying to progress. I mean, it just has to be stopped, period. Because that's not the culture. It's not a healthy culture. It's like like she said, it was a toxic culture. And you can't work in toxic cultures. And what happens is people get sick, stressed out, and are unproductive. And so we have to resolve all of those dilemmas, and we can. And it's not fair to others that, one person bullies everybody. So anyway, or whatever the situations are. Yeah, thank you for bringing it to our attention.
The focus has been primarily on our students heavily, and we still know that there are some issues there. But I think we can always do better at focusing on staff-to-staff relations, whether it's administrator to subordinate employee or employee to employee that are in the same groups as well. So.
Exactly, yeah.
Thank you, Ashley. And I have a question regarding the district. What are we doing as a district? Because, we have the sexual harassment training, we have different types of training. Are we doing a training specifically for all employees regarding adults bullying or behaviors, or what are we? The thing is that with society, sometimes we learn certain behaviors and not necessarily understanding the outcomes or how it affects the other person. Are we doing any type of training, or do we plan on doing any type of training that can help them? Well, the way you communicate to this person this way, this is how it impacts them, and how can we change that behavior?
Great question. I'll let Dr. Wiseman speak to that.
Yeah, we don't have any explicit training on bullying. We do have some policies and procedures, as well as some of the work of Dr. Mitchell. I know there are some resources out there. There are some trainings that are required by Ed Code that have to happen on a very regular basis, but that's something we can certainly explore in regards to some
That would be
possible
great, please,
training
if we can do
that
that.
would go through the district.
Yes, please.
Can I say something?
Yes, Dr. Flores?
As an employee of Cal State San Bernardino, I had to go through a harassment and misconduct training. It took me an hour to do it, and it was, interactive and so forth, but I could do it, by myself. And I think it would behoove us to, that doesn't mean that you don't deal with the actual aspects, but what I also learned was the policy and what not to do. And if I do see somebody else doing it, I am responsible, I am obligated to report it. And so that, I think, was really, really insightful for me to do that. Not just report it for myself, but report it if I witness it. And so perhaps we may, look into that.
We do, the law applies also. Our administrators do receive that training every other year as required by law. And so we do have that in terms of a more comprehensive approach to workplace bullying specifically as a topic. That'll be up to us to create such a system.
Exactly.
And that's a system that we're wanting to,
Yeah.
not just around that area, but also around things like fraud, waste, abuse,
Oh, yeah.
and
All
et
of
cetera. Yeah.
all of those issues.
And
Okay.
it's shifting the culture too, because a lot of adults, they grow up thinking that it's certain behaviors, the way you speak, the body language, all of that can impact, and we need to learn how to shift that.
Yeah, good point.
Dr. Wyatt?
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Ashley and Sandy, for bringing this to our attention, as my colleagues have said. Now, I'll try to keep it very simple. I'd like to have an update on where we're at on this by the next board meeting, so we know that action's being taken and that steps are being taken Obviously, this is something that's been a concern for a while, and I think if we keep it on the radar, then these things will get acknowledged and get taken care of as soon as possible. So I wouldn't like to hear this years again down the road, but have this resolved as soon as possible.
Okay,
So thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you, Dr. Wyatt.
Thank you, Dr. White.
We're going to go ahead and move along to 7.2, report by CSEA, California School Employees Association. Okay, they're not here. We're going to go ahead and move to 7.3, report by Communication Workers of America. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam President and Dr. Marston and fellow board members. My name is Stephen Gianni. I'm, used to say Chief Stewart. I'm Area Vice President now of the substitute teachers. We're in the process of reorganizing, changing a few things. For one thing, we're moving the date when we meet from Tuesday to Wednesday. We're also looking at having a meet and greet with all the leaders here at the district, with the leaders of the union. Our president specifically asked for that, and so we're going to be doing that. The talk about bullying is something that I think is very important. I think it is a very important thing that needs to be discussed, considering I've seen it, I've had it happen to me by not only students, teachers, and administrators, but not all in this district. Okay. I'm happy also to hear that you're talking about students that do not have 4.0s. Or A students. I'm glad to hear that you're talking about students that have C's, B's, D's. They're at least trying to get into something. They want to go into vocational ed instead of into colleges. That's important, I think, because not every student wants to become a lawyer, a doctor, or a teacher. Some want to become mechanics, and some are very good mechanics. In fact, if you find a good mechanic, you should stick with that person. I know I have. And I believe that will be the extent of my comments for today. As I'm still learning, still reorganizing. It's interesting to come into a position where I've been his chief steward for a long time, but I never realized how interesting and disorganized Ron was. But thank you very much.
Oh, my goodness. Well, thank you so much for your presentation or your comments. 7.4, let's move along. 7.4, report by San Bernardino School Police. No?
No report.
No report. 7.5, report by San Bernardino School Managers.
No report.
No report there. 7.6, comments by school board members. Mr. Tillman?
Happy New Year.
Yes.
And Mr. Polino provided this document about parent protocols during crisis, Mr. Polino, and it said that Dr. Flores requested it. Yeah. I read it, and I think we need something that maybe talks about the different scenarios, like the scenario we had when the incident happened at Anderson where the students were taken to a different place. I think it'd be good ahead of time that parents know that depending on the situation, that you may not have access to your kids right away, and that we may take your kids to a safe place, and then have the parents go to a different place, and that's part of our process to reunite them, but in a way we ensure we account for them and keep them safe. I think if we had that, if some parents had knowledge of that, before this last incident, it would have helped a whole lot because parents didn't know that. And I think the worst thing to do now is to send this out without mentioning the possibility of scenarios like that. I don't know how in-depth you want to get or the different scenarios, but I know you know about the different ways you're going to handle stuff as they occur. I just think the more information we give to parents ahead of time, the better. But thank you for this, and then maybe you can follow up. You can, if you want to.
Yeah, Mr. Tillman, part of our future work in terms of our protocol, and as a result of events that have occurred across the community, we'll be doing exactly what you just requested.
That'd be great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Dr. Wyatt?
Thank you, Madam President. Just in regards to bullying, we've been talking about that quite a bit this evening. I noticed in our BCs here in our upcoming events that on March 5th, there is a SBCSS bullying prevention workshop. So obviously, there's training locally and available if folks need to be sent to that. I know I have some members that'll be attending that myself. And that's at a Bob Murphy County Community School from 8 to 4, so it's an all-day event. So something just to consider. And as my colleague Danny said, Happy New Year, and I'm tempted to say Happy Flu Year because it seems like so many of us have had the flu, including myself and my family members. And so just out to our community out there and our employees and our students, please take care of yourself. This flu is a nasty, nasty bug. And if your children have it, probably not send them to school. We normally want them to come to school, but we know it's highly contagious as well. So something just to keep in mind. Over the holidays, I was very, very fortunate to participate in a toy giveaway. First time for me ever at Mount Vernon Elementary School. And I wanted to thank the chief and his folks. They donated tremendously, not just time, but toys and money as well, and the explorers that were there. Obviously, just an incredible display of compassion and humility from our police officers, and amazing, as well as Dr. Volkemer and Dr. Marsden, who they were there as well, and their families. But just again, an amazing event for our students and our community, and just to say thank you to everyone that participated in that. Seems like so long ago, but it's been recent news that, of course, I'm real big on our Cajon Cowboys, and we've had a number of them who have been acknowledged at a national level. Yes. Junior All-American. We had 3 young men who were able to be selected as Junior All-Americans. That's our wide receiver, Darren Jones, our quarterback, Jaden Daniels, and our linebacker, Jonathan Perkins, which, wow, all I could say is outstanding accomplishments. And what's even more amazing is that they're all juniors. And they'll be back again next year to hopefully lead us again to another state game, and this time a state championship. And then just want to compliment Jeremiah Martin as well. He was selected as a Defensive Player of the Year. Coach Nick Rogers, who was selected as Coach of the Year, and then also Jaden Daniels, who again was all Conference Player of the Year. Just some amazing things happening in our schools. And again, it's been a great ride watching them participate. And we have many, many great sports programs out there, as well as academic programs, and this is just one of many great things we do in our district. And we're so large, it's hard to be at everything. And I know up here we want to try to be at as many events as we can. And
That's right.
I remember when I first came on, I asked my colleague Mike Gallo, Mike, how long does it take to see every school? He said, Scott, it took me probably a little over 4 years. And I'm like, wow. It's quite a challenge because we're so large. But I want everybody out there, all our schools, all our staff and students, community to know that we're very proud of your accomplishments, and we want to be at every event. And that's something I know we strive for, is to have one of us as a board member be there for you. And as we've heard earlier, if you do have concerns, please reach out to us and let us know. Because if we don't know, then we can't act. But if we do know, I can assure you this board will act upon your concerns and follow up on it. So again, thank you for everything.
Thank you, Dr. Wyatt. Dr. Flores?
Yes, I just want to piggyback, just to remind the board that the leadership of Mr. Tillman in terms of funding our athletics program, when we made that decision to fully fund our athletic strategic plan, this is what results. This results in terms of supporting our kids and our coaches and so forth. So that's, that's what we're here for, to prioritize, the monies accordingly in terms of, supporting our staff and our students. So anyway, I just wanted to piggyback on that so that we also know that's important. I know that we are a proponent, I only have 2 comments tonight, believe it or not. We're proponents of VAPA, of Visual and Performing Arts. And I had shared about, establishing a district mariachi band. And we have quite a few students that already are in a mariachi band under the leadership of Maria Sanchez. And I would like to invite her to submit a proposal so that we can agendize it and fund it as part of our VAPA program. They're very, very talented, and I really appreciate her because she also opens it up for our special needs kids. So we have special needs kids from our district that are in the mariachi. And so I really want us to support her. So with your consensus, I'd like to ask her to submit a proposal so that we can agendize it. So that's number one. Number 2, I just came across this by the NAACP resolution, and NAACP is calling for a moratorium on charter school expansion and the strengthening of the oversight and governance and practice of charter schools. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to read parts of it. It says that, whereas charter schools have been a rapidly growing sector of the education system, increasingly targeting low-income areas and communities of color. Whereas charter schools with privately appointed boards do not represent the public, yet make decisions about how public funds are spent. And whereas research and reports have documented disproportionately high use of punitive and exclusionary discipline in addition to differential enrollment practices that violate protections of student rights for public schooling. Whereas research and civil rights organizations have documented violations of parent and children's rights, conflicts of interest, fiscal mismanagement, and psychologically harmful environments within several rapidly proliferating charter management organizations. And whereas analysis of annual missing charter funds have been estimated at nearly $500 million, not million, $1 billion nationally. And then I'm going to skip down. Whereas the NAACP shares the concerns of the Journey for Justice Alliance, an alliance of 38 organizations of Black and brown parents and students in 23 states, which has joined with 175 other national grassroots community youth and civil rights organizations calling for a moratorium on charter schools programs, which has pumped over, federal charter schools programs, which have pumped over $3 billion into new charter schools, many of which have already closed or have failed the students drawn to them by the elusive promise of quality. Therefore, be it resolved that the NAACP affirms its 2014 resolution, School Privatization Threat to Public Education, in which the NAACP opposes the privatization of public schools and other public subsidizing or funding for nonprofit, funding for profit or charter schools. And so it's a resolution, a nationwide resolution by them in support of public education, and that we are the ones that should be providing all of the opportunities and possibilities within a public school system. So I'd like to share this with you all, Karen, so she can mail it to you. But I didn't read the whole thing. I just highlighted some of it. But I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you, Dr. Flores. Ms. Gwen Rogers?
First, just Happy New Year's to everyone. It's good to be back. We are now in 2018. And as we were reviewing our our community engagement plan, I had mentioned this to you, Dr. Marsden, the other day when we met, just want to make sure that the verbiage of specifically for coding is in there so that we begin to make sure that we are looking at that for the future for our students. As well as we talked about, we're sharing about changing the culture, and so speaking it as well as visualizing, I think it is important. And as I was getting off the elevator at Cal State week before last, or last week, or one of those days I was there, and there was on the elevator a poster that had all about the disaster information. I kind of showed you on the phone. It wasn't a very good copy of it, but it was enough to catch my attention, to read it. And sometimes we're not always able to be everywhere to talk to everyone. And until we are able to really get it embedded in the culture, I think it's a good idea to look at having the visual for that, as well as for the bullying. As we continue to talk about that issue, it can be something simplified, but there, and get us looking back and drawing our attention, especially when you do your moments of hope, and hopefully you'll be able to do that where it's in a situation where everyone sees it once a week or month or whenever you decide to do that. And then finally, I just want to say I believe it went through last year, but I want to say congratulations to my big brother who spent his final day. I think he came to work the other day with 30-plus years, was finalizing everything for him. So guys out there, I told you I was going to try to stop it. I guess I can't stop it now, so he's going to go. But congratulations, Dennis Dowdy. You did a great job, and we look forward to seeing you coming back helping us with our special education students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. Dr. Hill?
Thank you. As with the others, Happy New Year to everyone. I think we're going to have a great year if we focus on getting rid of all the people out there bullying, and that should be a top priority. My concern is certainly big when we have adults bullying, because I support training, but these are people who know better. And so they just need to mind their manners. And if they're in the wrong profession, I'm not going to recommend you go to another district. I recommend you find something else to do, like work by yourself. And that way you don't have to worry about bullying anybody but yourself. When I went to the summer conference down in La Quinta, before I got off the freeway, I called Dr. Marsden, and I said, this is the best message you've ever given to administrators. And it did not include it's okay to bully. So for those administrators, I don't remember Oprah Winfrey's exact words, but you need to cut it out like tonight. And when you start tomorrow, you need to have a new attitude. And your time is up. So for those of you bullying, your time is up. And I agree with Dr. Wyatt. We need a constant update on what is happening out there, because it's not acceptable. And as a board, there's 7 of us here. We certainly didn't hire you to bully, and we didn't approve your hiring to bully. So I want to share that. And my last thing I want to share is I had an opportunity in December to go to the Rose. It's a place where Rick Cannon, some of you might know the actor, he had a fundraiser, his foundation fundraiser. And it's a beautiful place in Pasadena. Got there, and who's the first group to come out to entertain? But our kids. I said, what? And they did an awesome job. The students from Richardson and the music workshop, the team music workshop, they were awesome. I mean, they put on a show and a half. It wasn't their first time there. They are one of the groups that they invite often to show up. But at any rate, we need to get them here and congratulate them. But they're wonderful. I was seated with a lady from Florida, and she said, "Those look like teenagers." I said, "Yeah, a lot of them from middle school." She said, "What?" But they took the show, and they were on stage with some semi-professional and some has-been professionals. But I tell you, if I had to listen to all of them, it would be that group of students. And so I congratulate them and congratulate those staff members for giving up their Sunday morning to have those students there to perform. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. Mr. Gallo?
Yes, thank you. I just got a comment on the career pathway work that we're doing. I know there's some 4.0 students that have entered the trades and careers and have been very, very successful in there. And the real point of this is to give all of our kids choices. It's not to track our kids into a particular career field or into college or anything. It's to give them all choices. Choices to go to college, choices to go into a career, or choices to earn and learn like many of us did, you know, when we did it. And that's the real opportunity, I think, that we're moving ahead here is it's not your grade point average that's going to determine what pathway you might take. It's your choice, and we're going to see that you're fully equipped with the skills, abilities, and credentials and certs necessary for you to pursue your dreams. And that's really what our career pathway approach is all about choices. So, thanks.
All right. Dr. Wyatt?
And my apologies, I didn't get this the first time, but Dr. Flores and Dr. Hill definitely reminded me of something I was watching over the holiday break, and it has to deal with our VAPA, obviously, our visual and performing arts programs. And, you know, I was watching only a segment of the Rose Parade. I didn't watch the whole thing, but one of the bands there was the LA Unified School District All-City Band. And you've probably heard me say this before up here, and it's something I think about, and I say, I've seen our music programs. You've mentioned it as well, and Richardson and Sanji and Cajon, I've seen their programs, which are all outstanding. And like, I know our kids could go up against any of the kids out there, and why wouldn't our kids be in that all-city band at such an event? And one thing that was really exciting at one of the games was at the Downey game, Cajon versus Downey at Downey, sitting in the crowd. Actually, Dr. Robinson's right next to me. And our fans and our students were like, "Where's our band?" You know, it was amazing. They wanted the band to be there as much as they wanted the football players to be there as part of that team. And our band was actually playing at a basketball tournament, I think somewhere, where was it at, Dr. Volkmer? I think you might know. It was in another city far away. I wouldn't say like Baldwin Park, earlier during that day. And then they made the trip from there to Downey to go play for our kids and our staff, our community, our students. And it was amazing. When the band got there, it was like the second half, and just the crowd just lit up. There was like it scored a touchdown or something. The band walked in and started playing. And it was fun to watch because then they went at it against the Downey band back and forth from the end zones. And but it's again, it goes back to everything we do for kids. Every little program we do for kids matters. And you know, I'd love to see our visual and performing arts programs across the district, every school, heightened to a different level. Because not every kid can hit a home run or throw a ball, you know, 60 yards for a touchdown. And not every kid can play the clarinet or the violin or the cello. And that's why we have to embrace all different aspects of education. And I thank you, Dr. Hill, for reminding me, and Dr. Flores, the mariachi program. That would be awesome to see. So thank you again.
All right, thank you, Dr. Wyatt. I, for my comments, wanted to mention, first of all, Happy New Year to everyone. I also wanted to mention regarding the San Bernardino High School or some of the high schools in our school district that pertains to STDs. And so for me, when you're looking and talking about health, you also have to make sure that in the district that we're addressing some of these issues and we're doing education and we're tackling what many people might think, well, we're already past that phase. we don't need to worry as much, but honestly, if it's increasing, we have to start worrying and making sure that our kids are protected and understanding. So I don't know what the updates are, what we're doing. I know that at one point, the San Bernardino County was getting involved to try to see if they can help with trying to provide some education and some health resources, but I would like an update on what's going on at each of our high schools, specifically for those that have a high tendency for high STD rates. There was Assembly Member Eloise Reyes had an event for our youth, and one of the persons that were talking, Monica Stockhausen, was presenting on girl talk. And the way she spoke about passion, about the kids and what they can be doing in the future, I would like to try to see if we can also, like how Ms. Barbara Flores mentioned with programs, is just trying to see how we can connect her to some of the programs within the school district and have that conversation there. I also wanted to address some of the issues pertaining our bullying piece. Is there any way that we can look at education with our families as well, our parents? With our own children, especially how they interact in schools. And when you're looking at parent leadership, you also want to make sure that we are helping our parents, our families understand how to effectively communicate as well. We always want to make sure that we're growing in all aspects, and that's another piece that we can definitely progress in that. So that's it for right now, but we're moving along. I'm really proud. We're going to go ahead and go to public comments before our superintendents speak. So we're going to go ahead, if you can.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you, Madam President. And so we have one public comment now and then one that will come up under item 8.22 under consent. So I'll bring that comment item back when the board discusses that topic. So the board welcomes now Miss Margaret Paul, comment regarding Jumpstart training. Welcome.
I'm Margaret Paul, a nationally certified school psychologist. I work for the district, and I have a couple of things actually I want to talk about. First of all, I'm going to talk about, I noticed at my elementary school that we're using plastic now, and so we're using fork and spoon for lunch, and if you have 700 kids, that's 1,400 pieces of plastic a day just for lunch alone, and that adds up to 7,000 a week or 28,000 pieces of plastic a month that just for lunch alone that we're using. I think we use the same stuff for breakfast. Now, I'm not sure what's going on with that. Maybe it's for ease or save on water, but I am concerned about the environment, and so I just would like to bring up that concern. The second thing I want to say is that I attended the Jumpstart training on Thursday and Friday, and I really want to thank the district for affording us this opportunity. I really learned a lot from that. Also, ideas were given to share with our students. It's really critical that they know about finances. And it was critical that I know about finances. Things that were covered in that training were spending, planning, saving, and investing, 403Bs, Roth IRAs, credit debt, ownership, FICO scores, risk management, identity fraud. CalSTRS was there to present on defined benefits and other things regarding our retirement. They gave us spreadsheets for budgets. I really feel empowered now to take over my finances, and I want to thank you for presenting that, because that is going to help me personally, and I think when we feel comfortable financially, it's going to make us function better within our job and our career. So I want to thank you. A couple things I learned is that your budget has a job, it works for you, and the more specific you can be about your goals, the clearer the action. And I just wanted to say that one of the sayings that they said, which I really liked a lot, was do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving. So I really felt I learned a lot, and I really feel empowered to move forward with my own financial business, but also I think we're going to give that message to the kids. And lastly, I worked with Dennis Dowdy at San Andreas, and he's one of the finest counselors and individuals I've ever worked with. I saw the difference he made in kids' lives. All the people that came back to visit him, it was hard for him because he would always take the time to say hi to a young man that brought their family over to see him, or a girl that came by to say hi to him. but I was so impressed by all the kids that came back and saw him. I'm sure they're going to be sad when they go back there and he's not there. I did nominate him for the Monty Award years ago, and he got it. And I just feel very blessed and privileged to have worked with such a fine person. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. And I do want to, that was actually one of the things I was going to mention during my public comment was regards looking at not only plastics, but styrofoam and other areas, how we can reduce within our maintenance and operations, or which department that's going to be in charge of that, or nutrition services. Because I've seen that we've gone to different events within the school district, and they have styrofoam cups, and they have plastics. And so is there any way that we can look at alternatives that can, when they end up being thrown in the trash, that they are not going to be reducing the carbon, basically, the intake, and so that they're easily biodegradable?
Yeah, we can look into that. Thank you.
Please, and reducing especially styrofoam. I mean, that one's very bad as well. So thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so we're done with public comments. We're going to go ahead and move to Dr. Marsden for his comments as well, and we have 5 minutes on that one, too.
Thank you, Ms. Medina, much appreciated. So, Board, you met earlier Ms. Laura Ramos, from, who's now principal at Emerton Elementary School, and you met also John Carranza, vice principal at Inland Career Education Center. Gabriel Diaz is also here tonight, principal at Golden Valley Middle School, so welcome as part of his onboarding, and so the Board welcomes you, and congratulations on your promotion. And then, Board, we will, at our next meeting, recognize our Cajon football team for their successes, so be prepared for that. We also will take some time, as is fitting, to honor the loss of some very dear people to our community recently with Ms. Frances Grice and Mr. Graciano Gomez. Was also informed today that we lost a former principal who'd been 19 years with the district, Mr. Dave Coleman, passed this last week. And so we just want to honor some folks next week and want to make you aware of that. A couple recognitions. Cajon High School teacher Deborah Tivy recently received the 2018 Carl J. Schaefer Memorial Award from the NOCTI Board of Trustees. She was one of only 2 winners in the entire United States to receive this award, which honors outstanding teachers who excel in career tech ed. Also, congratulations to Chris Petrus-Sion at Curtis Middle School on being named a finalist for the California League of Middle School Recognition Educator of the Year. He's a science teacher there at Curtis. And congratulations to San G High School teacher Michael Smith on being named a finalist for the California League of High Schools Regional Education of the Year. Mr. Smith is a teacher in AP Government and AP History. Congratulations to Belvedere Elementary School for being selected to represent the San Bernardino County as a host for the Avid Showcase on January 23rd this year. The showcase includes seeing Avid in action at Belvedere and in the classrooms. So thank you to Principal Ann Pearson for her continued leadership there. Board, I want to invite you. We're conducting on January 17th instructional rounds district-wide, and so some of you have come out in the past. We invite you to join us again as we go see classrooms and report the positive of what's working well in those classrooms and share those things out. We'll be meeting in Conference Room A in the morning. If you'd like to attend, please let us know, and we'll get you additional information.
What date is that?
That'll be on January 17th, Wednesday, next week. And then, Board, previously we had a couple workshops set up for the Board's quarterly review of my evaluation. And so we had January 30th from 4 to 8. We're going to maintain that. But what I'd like to do is reschedule from February 27th, because it won't be a full quarter. I want to actually take that day off and add Tuesday, April 24th. So if that would work for your calendars, we'd request if we could have your consensus on Tuesday, April 24th as our next quarterly superintendent evaluation meeting. Would that work for you, Board? Yep. Have you take a quick peek, and then we'll get Karen get that date out to you. So I'm seeing Mr. Gallo nodding yes. And
For what date was it again?
April 24th, Tuesday, it'd be from 4 to 8 p.m.
Yeah, I'm available.
So Ms. Medina is available. Ms. Rogers is tentatively available.
Yeah, Ms. Rogers and I at the same meeting.
Okay.
Police advisory committee.
Okay, so
But I'm sure we can.
tentatively available then? Okay, fantastic.
Was the 24th?
Yes, Tuesday, April 24th,
What
time?
It'd be from 4 to 8 p.m. Mr. Tillman, can that work for you? Tuesday, April 24th, 4 to 8 p.m. Dr. Flores?
I'm scheduled to be out of town. So, just, is everybody?
So far, I'm seeing a tentative. Dr. Wyatt is and Mr. Tillman is, so Dr. Flores, could that work for you possibly?
Could possibly.
So we'll work with Karen and see if we can solidify that date. Thank you, Board. I appreciate that. And then lastly, Board, you know we've been working toward having being the very best at what we do. There is a Baldrige Quest for Excellence Conference. This is the highest award, the Baldrige Award, that any organization, including education, can earn in America. And they have a national conference every year where we hear from those award-winning organizations who've achieved the highest level in strategic planning, leadership, and a number of other practices many talked about tonight. So I'm wondering if there's two of you that might like to join us April 8th through 11th, Baltimore, Maryland. At this conference, you'll have the opportunity to learn more in depth about what those processes are that we'd be orienting ourselves to. Do I have two members that might be interested? April 8th through 11. I think first, of course, of our president and vice president. Ms. Medina, would you be interested?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to write Ms.
Just have to check
Medina
my schedule
down.
to make sure.
And then our vice president, is that something, Ms. Rogers, you might be interested in? And then do I have an alternative that might be interested on the board? Any alternative that might be interested on the board in case these dates don't work?
I might be, right.
Dr. Hill? Okay, thank you. Thank you, board. Those are all my comments.
All right, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and move along to 8.0, consent calendar items.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion?
Like to pull
Yes.
8.22.
Hold on one sec.
Somebody's talking about that.
8.22? 1-2.
2-2.
2-2.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Tillman.
Is there any other?
And I believe Mr. Just a comment, if I may. I believe Mr. Tillman's pulling this one because his daughter is the applicant for the charter petition, and so he, of course, will recuse himself during that time. I'd also like, I won't pull it, but I'd ask that we have a modification to make, and Dr. Mitchell's going to read in the modification for item 8.24. So he's going to read that in now, and we'll include that as part of your consent calendar. Dr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Dr. Marsden. We'd like to make an amendment to consent item number 8.24 regarding a contract for a girls' leadership program for our students. The amendment is as such. The cost will be $25,000 per school, $5,000 per month, $1,250 per week, $62.50 per student for 20 students receiving 4 hours of weekly instruction in the program. So we'd recommend approving the contract as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Mitch, Dr. Mitchell. And then other items that board you had to pull?
Yes. I'd like
Okay.
to pull 8.8 to explain. I'd like an explanation. And also 8.35 and 8.36. Would also just like an expansion on, just explanation
Okay.
on those. And that's it.
Any others? Calling once, calling twice. I do want to pull, even though we did get, we received information, 8.24. So I will go ahead and pull that one.
Great.
Okay, so we have 8.8, we have 8.22, 8.24, 8.35, and 8.36.
Correct.
So we have, any discussion?
8.10, did somebody pull that? No.
No.
No, okay.
1-0?
No,
Oh, no?
no.
Okay.
I probably should abstain from the consent item for the Workforce Investment Board investment thing in here.
What's the item number?
I'm not sure what item.
Yeah, I have
number it
that. That's item.
It's 8.27. yeah.
is.
We'll
27.
pull item
8.27.
8.27 as well. Okay, fantastic.
I mean, I don't think I have to leave the room or
No.
anything, but I just will abstain
You can just
from
abstain.
the
that's
vote.
Okay, so consent items, we already have the first and we have the second. Any discussion?
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yes,
I have
go ahead.
another one. I just saw it. 8.23.
8.23. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and vote. Let's move to 8.8. And that was Dr. Flores.
Yes. I would just like a clarification, Ms. Christakis. Could you just explain why we need this particular analytics?
We currently are using it, this is an upgraded portion, is that correct, Ms. King? We're currently using it to help us with analyzing our expenditures. It compares all of school districts in California, and this is a higher platform that gives us detailed access to statewide data and graphics across student data as well as financial data, and it helps us with looking at our LCAP and other investments that we're making, where we are consistent with other school districts and spending in specific areas, where we have outliers, and it really helps us to look at our budget and how we're allocating some of the resources as compared to other districts.
So it's a program? Okay.
It's
All right.
software.
I just wondered what it
Software.
was.
It's software.
So it interfaces all of these and
We
then
upload our financial information.
upload our data, and then it analyzes it and compares and contrasts
Compares it
Okay.
to all the other districts.
Okay, great, thanks.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Let's go ahead and vote. Okay, let's move along to 8.22, 8.22.
Did you have a?
But we do have public comments, but if, so we're going to have any first or second? Can I have a first? 8.22? Since Mr. Tillman's out, and we do have a public comment.
Yes, so Board, we're looking for a motion and a second on 8.22, and then we would have our read in any comments.
Well, I'll move to approve.
Second.
Okay, any conversation within the board?
I just want to state, there was a reason for me reading the NAACP moratorium. I'm going to take a position as a board member that I am not going to be supporting any charter schools from this point on.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Flores. If we can have the public comment?
Any other comments
Any other comments?
from the board?
Okay.
Okay, so we do have a public comment. Ms. Linda Hart, the board welcomes you to speak on item 8.22. Oh, it's pulled. Okay, thank you, thank you. Okay, no, there are no public comments then on
Okay.
8.22.
Then let's go ahead and vote.
Okay.
We have to clear it out.
Let's go ahead and clear that, Ms. Cunningham, and then they're going to try that one more time.
If not, we'll have to do.
No, they're
there we
going to, there we go. Okay,
Okay.
okay, so motion carries.
So motion carries. It's been passed.
Okay.
Then now we're moving to 8.23. If they can call Mr. Tillman back.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Wiseman.
8.23, and that was pulled by Dr. Flores?
Same.
Same thing? Okay. So do we have a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, let's go ahead and vote.
23.
Okay. Motion passes.
Did you vote?
I voted, yeah, didn't I? It's not working.
So
I
it's
voted
an-
yes.
It's an aye for Ms. Medina.
Yes. Okay, we're moving to 8.24. And the reason why I pulled that is I didn't have enough time to read the full information. So there's 25,000 per school, 5,000 a month, serving 20 students. So what is the, you know how we've spoken about any types of contracts that comes through the board? We also want to look at previous outcomes and what schools have they serviced and what experience they've have, and just making sure that we are looking at this as well within every contract that we receive, I imagine.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Medina. So Ms. Chambers has facilitated groups at Anton, Sierra, and San Andreas High School during the 16-17 school year. This current program she's worked with the two schools that we have in mind. They're both TSSP schools with low performance among some subgroups that we want to target at those schools. And so although the district is paying for it, it's really being advocated by the two schools.
By the two schools, and
Yes.
the outcomes?
The outcomes are leadership development, academic development, mentoring, exposure to successful.
But what I mean, I guess the outcomes is when they finish the programs, are we going to have the outcomes? What are the percentages? What are they looking at? Is this, what does it look like, other than you're mentioning culture and leadership, empathy, all of those, but how does that look like? What does that look like by the time the program ends?
So when we have qualitative metrics around evaluating programs, so not all programs are able to be statistically evaluated.
Okay.
And so we feel like these evaluation metrics are valid, using survey information, focus group information, meeting with
Okay.
parents, those kinds of things. So some outcomes for kids, like for example, if a kid has been failing most of their high school career and we have them work with someone to improve just their self-perception, their personal outlook, we feel like those are qualities or qualifications that are just as valued as, moving up in test grades and so on and so forth. So,
Okay. I just want to make sure that since we are utilized.
yes. And we are moving as a district, Ms. Medina, to a more formalized program evaluation method so that it creates a third point, creates an objective point for our potential consultants to have a consistent vetting for approval of contracts. And so this process for next year will be much more objective, and the board will have a consistent method of evaluating the strengths and weaknesses of potential contracts.
Okay. And Ms. Rogers?
Dr. Mitchell, you mentioned academics, but it's really, it's these 4 points that are here?
Yes, my apologies. We feel like those the academic achievement will be more of a secondary outcome.
Okay.
But these are the primary objectives that the consultant has laid out. We've agreed to them.
And these 3 schools, is it 3? 3 schools have identified,
2 schools.
is it 2? Because, okay, we're talking
So
about.
total contract is 50,000.
So, okay, because I'm trying to see I thought you said 20, so I wrote 20 over here.
20
But I see there's still the same, it's 20 students, still the same amount. We were able to get a little bit more detail as to what was going to be taking place.
Yeah, service hours.
The service hours.
Yes.
But the end result, are we addressing students that have a certain type of behavior? Are they doing well in school? I mean, how are they?
She'll be working with at-risk students that'll be referred to the program by counselors, teachers, and school administrators.
So they already have the students that they want, or they're just going to continue to refer up to 20?
They have the students they have in mind, but they'll be, we'll make sure that when she invoices us, that we'll ensure that she's serving the amount of students that she's after.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Okay, Mr. Gallo? Okay, Dr. Flores?
And I'm assuming, knowing Ms. Chambers, that she's probably going to document the girls in terms of their development and so forth. So, and I would assume that she probably is going to use testimony and also developmental data.
Yes, absolutely, Dr.
Okay,
Flores,
great, thank you.
I guess my only thing was that whenever we have departments or money, it doesn't necessarily means that we can just contract within programs that maybe are, so it's just, So it's just the experience, what work have they done prior to these? And this, I imagine that's like what I had mentioned with Harold Volckermer in previous occasions, when you're looking at every contract, that we're not necessarily being supportive of one program because we have connections to them directly, but looking at the type of work that they've done previously and the outcomes that they're going to be accomplishing by the end of the program. So that's just my main thing, that we continue to do that. Do we have that model yet out, and have they been part of this program as well?
I sent a BC to the board just before the holidays, Ms. Medina, about where we are in the program evaluation process. Actually, our last step was to meet with the vendors themselves, let them look at the new process, familiarize them with what the requirements would be, et cetera, et cetera. They've given us some feedback. I'm actually meeting with Barbara Richardson next week to hopefully finalize the program evaluation process.
Okay.
I just want to make just one additional comment, because obviously now in a different role, and I'm looking, and what I saw prior, I wasn't impressed with what I saw. And so what I'm asking the district is to do, please, part of the vetting, that's going to come however it comes, and that's great and that's wonderful. But we expect the district to do this prior to because what we're seeing now is totally different from what I saw last Thursday. And last Thursday was really nothing. And so it would have turned into all this Q&A. So we're using this as an example to move forward to say, we came back with a lot of information, but that's what we need you guys to do. And that's the message that we need you to convey to those that are wanting to do business with the district. It's the need of the district and the things that we have directed you on to do. And then when it comes to us, a paragraph like what we saw is unacceptable.
So noted, Ms. Rogers. Thank you.
Okay. And I appreciate that because this is a great example of what it should look like. So then we're going to go ahead. Did we have a second and we have a first and we have a second, right? Do we do that? No? Okay, so I'll call for a
I'll
motion.
move to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Okay, let's go ahead and vote. Call for a vote. Okay. 8.24 has passed. Let's go to 8.27, which was pulled by Mr. Gallo.
Yeah, and I really didn't mean to pull it. I probably didn't need to pull it. I'm just going to abstain, so I'll
Okay.
press my button that says
Okay.
abstain.
So is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, any discussion? If not, let's go ahead and vote. 8.27, with the one Mr. Gallo is abstaining for, since, yeah, okay. And I'm putting yes. I don't know why mine's not working.
Yeah, and I'm putting abstain, so, I guess it's there, yeah. I can see it now.
Okay,
yeah.
so I'm pressing yes. Okay, let's move to 8.35. This was pulled by Dr. Flores.
Dr. Monitis, I needed clarification. I think this is really good. I just needed to know, this is making up time for kids that have been absent. So then our ADA increases when they make it up?
Our ADA will
8.35.
increase, yes, I don't.
Is that correct?
It will clear absences that have occurred to date. So yes, we will collect ADA.
So potentially, what's the range of us spending $150,000 and recovering 7,500 students' absences? Or do we know that?
The contract reads that we will not exceed 7,500 students, but of those students, there could be multiple absences of them. And so each time that they meet with them, they would recover one absence.
One absence each time that
Each time they meet,
Okay.
each Saturday.
So then, Ms. Christakis, the mathematics on that would
Yes,
be,
So I think our daily rate is at $60 per day that we generate of attendance
so it'd be $60 times 7,500
for each day that they attend Saturday school.
for each day that they attend? If all of them attended, if every 7,500 kids attended, it would be $60 per one day.
And Dr. Menares and I sat down, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, I'm sorry, but we did look at, this is, a really an outstanding way to get kids involved in some great programs and to really get them energized about being in school. And we know and we expect that this will help improve our attendance rate. I've been in districts that do the Saturday school,
Right.
and it's really
So
a
if
great.
we recover just one day per student, it would be $450,000. So that's worth it, okay. Okay, good, okay. So moved.
Dr. Ms. Medina, President Medina? Just out of curiosity, is Valdez, is it Dr. Valdez? Is this her organization?
That's a good question.
I don't know who it is.
No, I don't believe so, no. This is Valdez Educational Services, so we used to contract with them for the SCS program, the Title I services in the past. This is a little bit, yeah, so this is actually a pilot program that we're trying, where Valdez will offer, and we're just doing it for 5 of our schools to start.
So is a
It's
company in
not,
San
it's not
Bernardino?
related to.
It's not related.
No.
It's a company in San Bernardino called Valdez?
Yes.
Okay, just asking. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Hill, go ahead. Go ahead, Dr. Hill.
Thank you. I had a chance to meet Mr. Valdez, regular attendance at the Countywide Gangs and Drugs Task Force, and usually the people he hires to work for him will have at least some college training. But it's not our Dr. Valdez, it's another one.
Well, it's good he's from San Bernardino. I'm assuming he's going to try to hire some folks from San Bernardino also?
Right.
Yes,
That's
yeah, I know
great.
some he's hired from.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Dr. Wyatt?
Thank you, Madam President. I guess I'm just looking for more information too as well on this Valdez Educational Services. You know, is this an approved curriculum? Are they accredited? Is it like a charter school? What is this? I mean, it's a lot of kids, 7,500 students, so that's a considerable number.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I apologize.
I don't mind who
So,
answers, but-
no, I'll answer. There's actually 2 contracts on here that are for attendance recovery, so there's a little bit of confusion. But in response to your question, Valdez, they will be using, we met with them and we talked through what this could look like. As I shared, they used to provide tutorial programs in the district when when it was No Child Left Behind and you had to contract. And they would go to homes and they would offer the tutoring there. So that's why we reached out to them, and this is really something that Youth Services is piloting. Their actual program, we talked about not trying to make up the actual instruction that the students will lose that particular day, because that would be pretty impossible, but instead to be looking at, they're using the iReady program to assess students as to where they're at, and then they'll be doing the tutoring based on that data, as well as they're going to reach out to, if they haven't already, our Ed Services staff to attempt to align some scope and sequence of the standards that students should be working on during that time period. So it's a combination of some pieces. What's nice about this pilot is that it's not just Saturdays, but they're going to also go out to the homes during the week to check and see how students are doing. So they cost a little bit more than the next program that we're moving forward with, and see which ones offer better services for our students, or maybe we have a combination. Did that answer your question, Dr. Wyatt? So they're going to have, on the actual day, it'll be a combination. They'll have face-to-face small group tutoring. They're going to have the online tutoring with iReady. They're going to have some workshops on non-cognitive skills, so the SEL competencies, some academic games, and then, as I said, they'll have the home visits during the school days.
And this will be recovered through ADA, I imagine, right?
Correct.
Yeah, up to $450,000.
Okay.
I already made the motion.
Okay, is there a second? Was there a second? Oh, Mr.
Yeah, I mean,
Bell.
I'll second it, but I just had another question. I assume that this is endorsed by the state. If they're going to give you recovery for a day's instruction, that then it's an appropriate level of instruction that would qualify for ADA compensation.
Yes.
Then that's
yes.
good for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's
Further
go
vote?
ahead and vote. Yeah, and my light is still having issues, and I'll say aye. That was you, Dr. Flores.
I voted yes.
So Dr. Flores did vote yes. And so did I.
And so did Ms. Medina.
Okay, let's go ahead and move to 8.36. Dr. Flores?
The same question, but this time it's not $150,000. It's close to $750,000, $700,000. And it doesn't say, and it's only $8 per student session. So, and it doesn't give the amount of students. So, I mean, just like what Ms. Rogers said earlier about being more explicit about what they're going to do. So I'm wondering, that's a lot of money annually. Yeah.
So this contract is a little bit different. So the ARC program is something that's been used by many districts in California throughout. I know when I was a principal in Pomona, we were using ARC. And so ARC, the contract, it's a little bit different in that we don't really think we're going to spend that amount of money, especially since it's taking a little bit longer for us to get this going. What it ends up costing is $8 per student, and then we get reimbursed. I want to make sure, and we have our ARC people here, so I want to make sure I'm explaining all this correctly. In order to pay for the cost of one teacher, in our district, because it'll be our teachers who provide the program or the instruction on a Saturday. So to pay for the cost of a teacher, we need to have at least 8 students show up, and that breaks even for the district. Any student that shows up above that who has an absence, the district recovers additional funds on top of that. And then we will be splitting as a district a percentage. Some of it will go back to the school sites, and then the rest will go into our general fund. And so our contract is pretty big because we're starting with 23 schools said they want to start this, and then we want to add some additional schools. We don't think we'll get all 72 this school year, but we want to have the contract ready to go so that if we need to add more on, we can. So we don't anticipate it costing this much. It's really overreaching to make sure that we're set to go.
Okay, so that's the budgeted amount.
That's the max that we could reach. And considering we're only going to do the ARC one Saturday a month, and we probably won't start, we're hoping to get it going this month. If not, we'll be starting in February. There's not a lot of Saturdays left.
And so it doesn't matter if it's high school or middle school or elementary.
No, it does not.
It's across the board.
Right, and we're going with the schools that are most interested. We want to make sure that we roll it out. With such a large district, we don't want to overextend ourselves. There's nutrition services that are involved. Students get fed a snack, if you will. That's part of being able to claim ADA. We're bringing in some custodial
And our teachers will
support.
be paid to
And
do
our
this.
teachers are paid, as well as we have a lead teacher for every school who gets paid a little additional, and they oversee the school program. So it gives teachers an opportunity to test out. Maybe we're really looking at teachers that may want to go into administration, and so they'll get paid a little bit more too.
And I see here, assist in developing curriculum ideas for the elementary, secondary grade levels. So that will be additional to actually providing the instruction.
Our teachers do it all, and so our schools get to decide what that will look like. So some schools, it's really an enrichment opportunity, and the teachers, and so when we planned for.
Are they developing the curriculum?
Yes, but they might be using things they already have, and most of them probably will. And at our secondary, as they come along, it'll be a lot more around using our credit recovery programs. It could also include some kind of homework help. Students just need to come to school, and then we work on what they need.
Yeah. Dr. Marsden, it would be helpful in the future that we have more details, like what Dr. Monatis just gave us, so that we know what we're approving.
Yeah, we'll do our best to take a better look at these during our agenda review and pull out things that might need more detail.
Okay.
Thank you,
Oh,
Dr.
Mr.
Flores.
Tillman
Mr.
has.
Tillman?
Yeah, I just want to say, I think this program is great. And when I have people talk to me a lot of times about different programs they want to bring to the district. And a lot of times they talk about it in terms of, well, I'm going to have these sessions and I'm going to charge, $50,000 and I'm going to have 2 sessions. And I always go back to the point that what's important is that we know how much it's going to cost per student. And to me, with the information you have here today, it's easy to extrapolate how it's going to benefit the district and how you're going to easily benefit the kids by having the kids show up, but you see the cost and you know how much money you're going to recoup. And the more kids you have come on Saturday, the better. To me, it's a no-brainer. It's really obvious this is the direction you want to go, because what bad can happen? You only get paid if the kid shows up,
Right.
right? and the student being at one of our schools is always a good thing. And so I think it's great. I think, I mean, I wish it was $2 million. Whatever amount of kids we have that are absent, then we should have the capacity to recoup all of that because it benefits the kids that have them at the school. So I want to commend you all on this program. I think it's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, we're going to go ahead and vote. Okay, motion carries. Let's go ahead into, I think that was the last one, 9.0. At this time, I'll entertain a motion and second the consent item calendar for 9.0.
9.0?
Action item 9.1. We'll do one each item. We're going to do each item individually.
Okay, okay.
Are we going to action items?
Yes, we're doing action items.
9.1, so moved.
Okay.
No clarification?
As
Is
presented.
there a second?
Yeah, I seconded it. Yeah.
There was a second.
Okay, is there any
Scott.
further
I was assuming it was as presented.
Well, you know, we're just guessing here.
Okay.
This is a new year.
All right, so then let's call for a vote. And I vote yes. Okay, and the next item is 9.2, resolution of intent by the district to realign the middle school boundaries for 2018-19 school year.
I'll move, but I have a question.
Me too.
So
I'll
moved.
second it. Yeah. And I have
Okay,
a
so
question as well.
It's motioned and second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. So just from a practical, I read the thing, I saw the maps, it makes no sense to me at all. So just from a practical perspective, is it saying that we have students that live close to Pacuma that are going to Chavez, and students that live close to Chavez are going to Pacuma, but now we're going to propose that they stay closer to their schools? Is that what
Closer
it?
to their home schools. So there was the realignment when Pacuma opened, and then to accommodate capacity, so we had a brand-new school, we did a temporary realignment between the two middle schools. And at this point, we're reaching capacity, and we want to be able to continue to accommodate the homeschool students near Pacuma, and then the other students would return to, actually would continue to go to their home schools. Those that are already in Pacuma, they would finish, and their siblings would finish as well. So it was a temporary realignment, and then it's going back to the historical alignment. Some of the Vermont kids could also opt to attend, and we wouldn't continue to do that either. But if the kids are already at Pacuma, they'll finish.
And so that's the part that's critical for me. If a student is at one of these schools already, and they have a sibling starting school, then that sibling should be allowed to go to that school. We say it here at the dais, a lot of times it doesn't happen in reality. So that's the part that's critical for me. We can't have a situation where you have the kids going to two different schools.
Yeah.
So whatever it takes to make sure that that practical part happens, then I support it. But I just want to, we got to ensure that that part happens.
Yes, that's the, what we will be doing.
Okay. So any further discussion? Dr. Flores?
Yes. I just wanted to clarify, that is the Vermont homeschool area that's going back to go to Chavez, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I concur very strongly, vehemently, what Mr. Tillman just said, because as, you know, as a parent, you can't have one kid going one school and another kid going to another school. And if the parents opt to go back to their home school, I think they should have the choice as well. Anyway, so I just, we have to take into consideration the children and the parents.
Absolutely.
And so we won't, so that if that doesn't happen, I'm sure the parents will come to us,
And
make
the
sure that
team-
it does happen.
And the team will be working on the
Yeah.
communication piece.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Just one other thing, I know in the documentation it said that it was going to happen at one school. I would just suggest we do it at both the schools, to have an informational meeting. In the documentation it said they're going to pick one school to do it at. I think we should do it at both schools. Okay, so it's not going to be at one of the middle schools, it's going to actually be at Vermont. That's great then. Thank you.
Okay. Any other further discussion? If not, we're going to go ahead and vote. Let's vote. And I vote yes. Okay, motion carries. Let's go ahead, and the board will now recess into closed session. We will be reporting out. Good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead. What did I put my sheets? We're going to go to action item 11.1. Be it resolved that the Board of Education approves to pay disputed claim under purchase order number 782934 with Bainan Sports Services, Inc. for the installation of synthetic tracks at Arroyo Valley, Cajon, Pacific, and San Bernardino High Schools. The work has been inspected and approved and accepted by the district. Be it resolved that the purchase order be approved as follows. Cajon High School, $411,157, Pacific High School, $403,154, and San Bernardino High School, $408,255. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, any discussion? Let's go ahead and vote. Okay, so it's been passed. Now let's go to items, right? Okay, we're going to go to the Special Education Director. Be it resolved that the Board of Education approves the settlement authority number SS-17-18-03 in the amount of $21,200. Be it resolved that the Board of Education authorizes Deborah Love, Purchasing Director, to sign any related documents. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, any discussion? If not, let's go ahead and vote. Okay, approved. Okay, be it resolved that the Board of Education approves the appointment of the following employees. Ordaz Lorinda, Elementary School Vice Principal, effective date, work year, and salary to be determined, funding 035. Eribe Ariana, Elementary School Vice Principal, effective, work year, and salary to be determined, funding 035.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay, any discussion? If not, let's go ahead and vote. Okay, be it resolved that the Board of Education accepts the notice of recommendation for disciplinary action and statement of charges to suspend without pay for 3 days the following classified employee for his or her employment with the district. HR-class-17-18-05. Do I have a motion? Okay, any discussion? Let's go ahead and vote. Okay, the board, I think that's about it. Oh, wait, I approve, I say yes, aye. And then, so board, is there a motion, second to adjourn? Second. Okay. Meeting adjourned, thank you for attending. Our next board meeting will be January the 31st, January the 23rd.